Week 4, Day 2. The Fates dice this morning. Acceptance, the Tower, Knower, the White, and for the future. The Witch's Tower is one created by her hand for purpose and new beginnings. I am the Tower of Souls for the purpose of healing and death. These were the first thoughts of this morning. This is not new, but this is the journey of depth and new perspective. And there is a new in that. I did not come to death work out of interest, but because of talent. I was naturally good at death doula work, guiding patients and families through the process. So well, in fact, any time a patient in our ICU looked to be heading there, I was given them. My nickname became the Angel of Death, and at first it felt like a slight towards me. I struggled with it as if I were a cause of it, even though I knew I wasn't. Every death I served changed me, took a part of me, because I only knew one way to walk with them, and that was all in with them. As the years passed, that role moved from discomfort to acceptance. I started teaching the nurses and other staff how to do this work, to be death doulas. Not just from the clinical, but from the heart and soul. Hospitals will always have limitations because the focus is always on the clinical. So I started teaching outside of that setting, focused on the soul and spiritual movement of death doula work. As I progressed in my own path, my soul's journey, my work expanded beyond the dying and grieving to working with the soul itself through all phases of death, rebirth, and life. I am a death worker, and I serve death in all its forms. Our society has such a skewed and fearful view of death, but at the core, death is just a transformation or transmutation. The healing in death work is deeper because it is healing the soul, not just mending a body. The work is harder because you are dealing with the heart first, not the mind in spiritual terms. Though the work of soul, of heart, we shift, alter, rewire the mind, but it comes from emotion, intuition, feeling, the knowing, not the seen, but the unseen. It is not just the soul's living in this life, but the soul's journey after death and before their rebirth. It took me a long time to embrace myself as a vessel for death, to be a death worker, because our society has such twisted views soaked in fear around death and the unseen. When I accepted it internally in my private practices, I struggled with the external world because they did not see the beauty, the wonderment, and the life that fills death and death work. Still seeing it through the stereotype of dark, scary, and the macabre. All death is, at the core, is transformation, though. We are always in some state of transformation, though. If we are truly living and growing, we go through many small deaths in our living life. And if we embrace that and know how we walk through that, then when the body dies and we are at this life's final death, the journey is easier, more peaceful, and faster in the process. That comes next for the soul. The focus of this life is not a reward that comes in the next, as Christians say. That is a construct of control through fear. The focus of this life is to experience, grow, gain new skills and perspectives that we will pass on to the next through our ancestral soul. A life building upon a life, building upon a life. This is the growth of the soul through all of its journey. This is why I teach the way I do, with frameworks, starting places, because our souls are different, or in different stages, with personal paths. You just need some tools and restructuring to bring the soul forth in a conscious way to lead in this life. My soul has been a death worker in many lives. That is why I have a natural talent for it. Adeliza, the part of my soul, my ancestor working with me on this weaver's journey, is one of them. The first 3 weeks she's been quiet, but now I suppose we are at a point that her skills and knowledge are needed. Her devotion and connection to death, to the Divine Mother, serving her role as the Tower for Soul. So I'm going to have some conversations with both the Mother and Adeliza this morning, and I'll share those when I'm done. So before having tarot discussion with her, when I open my grimoire to say the Mother's Rosary, which is what I do every morning, and I've been doing her Unity Rosary, because the white was in the Fates dice, it just kind of caught me, and I was like, maybe I should just be saying her white. So when I opened my grimoire to say the Mother's Rosary, that's where I started. And as I started, I felt I should only say the decade beads with her white prayer. A line started to really stand out: to transform through love and hope. I admit, when I think about transformation from a tower perspective, destruction is always the first movement. It's identify, deconstruct, or destroy in order to heal or create something new. As I said, her white rosary, reflecting on that line, I started thinking about the tower starting from a place of hope and love. Not the dark, but the light. Thinking about this from the perspective of, this is from a devotional standpoint, the bond or relationship. I can see this movement of tower and transformation. Through building the bond, I deconstructed within myself. I needed that darkness to deconstruct my mind, to alter and change the way my conditioning, societal conditionings, family conditionings, all of these things, to build my own foundations, to reconstruct myself in that way. But that's not how I built bond with her. I built bond through the process of hope and love. I built bond with the trust, with the consistency of her showing up, with the consistency of my growth walking with her, my own changes. And so I started thinking about this. This is a different and deeper transformation from a heart standpoint. So perhaps the destructive tower is for the mind, because we need that in order to shift and change ourselves. We have to reconstruct, deconstruct, and reconstruct within the mind, creating new pathways, new thought processes, new perspectives, new understandings. And it requires that destructive kind of process. But there is a different transformation of tower. There's a different kind of tower time that is done through hope and love, a movement of the heart. So maybe that is part of tower. Maybe that's where we're going. I don't know. I'm not going to guess until I start talking to her, but that's what was starting to come to mind just doing the prayer, that the mind deconstruction, the self deconstruction tower is the destruction part. It is the black. It is that movement. But her white has a tower. But it starts from a different place. It starts in heart, and heart moves from love and hope. Just a thought before I start chatting with her. So some of the conversation with the Divine Mother this morning, if anybody's wondering, I'm using the Seasons of the Witch, the Winter Tarot. It just came out, absolutely loving it. And it is the tarot deck that I am using when doing channeling sessions from a tarot standpoint with the Divine Mother through this Weaver's Journey. I forgot to take a picture of the first part of the conversation, so you'll just have to get over it. But I asked the Tower from the White, so the Tower from the White perspective, what we were talking about this morning. This was the answer. Through planting seeds, we inspire new thoughts, new perspectives, new ideas. Through sharing our own journey, our own magic, our own growth, we give an example of what they can look like in action, how we work and transform through the work, finding our own authentic self, forging our own path, and walking it for ourselves. We tell our stories. We do not give the doctrine or instructions to follow ours. The world is full of voices, in quotations, proclaim leaders and teachers saying their way is the way. But it is just what works for them. Teach them to be still, to see other people's journeys as ideas and inspirations to help get started, but not conform. Teach them to be still, what resonates and how does it resonate and work for them. Teach them to be still and find what holds true for them and forge how they move. So again, this is a journey of depth. I already teach this way. This is what I really focus on and how I teach. And, and I'm constantly reminding my students and the people I'm mentoring that, this is an idea. This is something to experiment with. This is something to help get you started, to help start that connection. But they have to find their own way. They have to figure out what works for them. Because how I work with fire is not how you're going to work with fire. We may have similarities, but we also have our individuality. The way that I work with the mother and her name and my perspective and my bond is mine. It can give you ideas, clues, inspirations, and we may have similarities, but at the end of the day, it's going to be different. Because we're different people, we have different paths, we have different skills, we have different weaknesses that we need to enhance or get over or find a way to make it a strength, or how to transmute that to become part of our victories. And this particular part brings me back to the story of one of my students. And she was a student of mine several years ago in the Death Emissary course. And after that, she became one of my sisters in the Coven the Sisters of the Well. And we were having a conversation recently because she's also on a devotional journey with the mother, her version of the mother, which is Hathor. And she's at this point where she's developing all these new things for herself. So, I showed her my rosary and how I do it with the mother and what my prayers are in that, in the lessons within them. She developed her own that's very specific for her practice, her connection, her bond, and where she is right now with that. So I gave inspiration. She created her own. I taught soul runes and how to do a personal journey through runes to get your own book. That's part of the course. You do that and you create this own personal book that is your lessons, your movements, your connections. And now she's taking that and she is moving and creating her own runes. So hers are more hieroglyphic, but she's not using hieroglyphics from specific ones. She's creating her own. And she's doing her personal journey at the same time with each one she creates. So again, an inspiration, an idea. But then how do you move with it? What does that look like for you? how do you forge your path with that? And so again, not new, but thinking about it from this aspect of tower, it does bring that perspective that there is tower in that. There is tower through that kind of movement of inspiration and getting them to get out of their box and to stop trying to think of everything that is taught as these are instructions. This is what we must follow, or this is the guide of how you do this. No, this is how I do this. This is what I got from it. This is what worked for me. And my students teach me all the time, what works for them. And that builds my knowledge because I know what works for me. And by them telling me what works for them, gives me more to tell other students. Hey, you're struggling with this part and you're trying to do it my way. Well, here's some other ideas from other students and what they did and what really helped them and how they were able to get into trance space, how they were able to get into spirit walking, how they were able to commune and have real conversation, how they heightened this particular soul sense or that one. We are not just one voice, and we're not learning from just one voice. We're getting pieces and parts and inspirations from many, many voices. And then we have to go within and create our own. So that leads us to the second part. This is the steps of the White Tower. Go within and let yourself be consumed with your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own connections and movements. So you've got all these inspirations, all these ideas. You got, some starting places. Go within now. How does that look for you? What resonates with you? What parts resonate with you? Because I doubt it's going to be the whole thing. Then go outwards, experiment, find your own connections, build your own beliefs and practices based on your own experiences. Then be the reflection of that in all your living, what you're creating, what you're forging. An underlying current energy. Commit the time and effort to yourself, for the transformation, for you, for your life. This is about you. So my sister had asked me, because I said, I don't see it as often as I would like, where my students really take that lesson to heart, that this is what I give are frameworks, a place to start, some ideas, some things to start working with, and then move it into your own, create your own, however that looks for them. Forge your own path. And she asked me why I felt that people didn't just do this more easily, more readily, more quickly. And really what I think it is fear. People are so afraid to make a mistake. They're so afraid of, doing something wrong or having a consequence. And our community really sucks at all this fear instilling. And it's carried over from society, from past religion and all that. But it's this fear that stops people. Don't let the fear stop you from becoming your true self. Don't let the fear of making a mistake, stop your growth. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to mess things up. But guess what? You're going to learn through every inch of it. And you're going to learn, oh, that's not for me. Or, oh, that really is for me. Or, oh, I really resonate with this part, but the rest was garbage. Wonderful. Work in that way. Work from that way. Let go of your fear. Look at everything like an experiment and see what happens. I'm starting to get the White Tower from movement I already do and how I already am, but what that looks like from a deeper perspective. So this is the conversation with Adeliza, the part of my ancestral soul. And we're going to be time walking today. I'm excited. So it starts with the soul runes, a piece for her. It's also going to be the chant that I do tonight when getting into space to spirit walk and time walk with her. Hope and magic, legacy, and space. So this is all about magic for hope, the hope that's within magic. Legacy, that's all about coming from her. It's my memory, my aspect, the legacy she has passed to me. And space, so walking, that's really what she's talking about here when she talks about space. Hesi Akun Akor, that's going to be the chant. Her fates dice was seen knowledge, observe the creation, and blue. Blue is about that inner knowing, the knowledge, putting it all together, knowing from soul, knowing from spirit, and all time. Again, going to be time walking with her tonight, which is exciting because it's been weeks since I feel like that we've had a really good spirit walk and time walk. I'm really interested to see what she's going to show me. And the message and the cards from that channeling. These, again, Seasons of the Witch, but these are the Oracle decks. And not just one. I took like 9 or 10 cards out of each of the decks that I had. I have like 6 or 8 decks, something like 6 decks. And created a specific deck just for ancestor work and ancestral soul specific work. So I am you, you are me. Walk and remember, so you have our power carried within. Light the incense and let the smell guide you to take them. Light the incense and let the smell guide you to the memories you need to see now in order to weave. So it's going to be very smell heavy, which is different. I'm generally, that's not my trigger, is a smell. So I guess it's going to be different with her. I'm really kind of excited to see where that goes because it's very literal incense with her. She has, like I said, likes the frankincense and myrrh. That's kind of her thing, at least right now in this time. And I guess it has something to do with this particular walk that we're doing. So excited. Cannot wait to share that when it's over and what happens. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Bring some magic in. Find some wonderment. Find some joy. I know our world is chaos and crap right now. But our world, our individual world, doesn't need to be that. We can find our moments of joy. We can find some moments of peace. We can find our own magic. It's one thing I love about witchcraft. Everybody talks, from a practical standpoint of spells and all that. But for me, a lot of magic is about self-transformation, connection, connecting to my soul, connecting to the energy, connecting to nature and the world around me and even the people and all those interconnections on the web. This is what witchcraft really brings me. This is what it has taught me. And this is how I'm growing in it. How are you growing in it? What is witchcraft to you? I'd love to hear about it in the comments if you want to share. Have a great one.